You can tell a lot about a gardener by what they stare at. Most people stare at leaves. They stare at flowers. They count tomatoes, watch peppers swell, and then they wonder why the plant still feels weak, why the harvest stalls out halfway through summer, why the neighbor down the street barely seems to fuss over anything and still ends up carrying baskets back to the house. The answer is not hanging in the air. It is under your feet. A plant can only build as much life above ground as its root system can support below it. So when a garden underperforms, the real failure usually starts in the dark, in the part nobody sees, in the part most people never feed properly. And once you see it that way, a lot of the gardening industry starts looking upside down. Because the truth is simple, and it is mechanical. Give a plant a stronger root system, and you change the entire season that follows. More water pulled in, more calcium moved, more nitrogen reached, more phosphorus captured. Better stress tolerance when heat hits. Better recovery after transplant shock. Better fruit fill when the plant starts asking for everything all at once. That is the lever, not another pretty bottle, not another shelf full of promises. The lever is roots. And today I want to show you one of the cheapest root stimulants a home gardener can make. It takes about half an hour. It uses ingredients that already belong in an ordinary kitchen. And once you understand what it is doing in the root zone, you stop looking at a lot of store-bought products the same way again. Because what we are making is not some folk garden mystery drink. It is fermented yeast water. That name sounds small. Honestly, too small. It sounds like something weak, homemade, halfway serious. But inside that jar, if you get the setup right, you are waking up a living culture that produces compounds plants actually respond to. You are not feeding the plant in the same way a fertilizer does. You are changing the conditions around the root zone so the plant gets a stronger start, recovers faster, and builds more of the underground engine that carries the whole season. That difference matters. A fertilizer is there to supply nutrients. A biostimulant changes response. It pushes root activity, growth signaling, microbial interaction, stress recovery. And that is why this works in a different lane from the usual bag-and-bottle routine people fall into every spring. The organism doing the heavy lifting here is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, ordinary baker's yeast. Same organism that helps bread rise. Same powder sitting in packets near the flour and eggs. Most people know it as a kitchen ingredient and stop there. But yeast is a living fungus. And once you wake it up with water and sugar, it does far more than bubble. As it becomes active, it releases a whole mix of biologically useful compounds into that liquid. Growers talk about auxins and cytokinins for a reason. Those are growth regulators plants respond to, especially when they are trying to establish roots, recover from stress, or push into a new phase of growth. Yeast activity also brings along amino acids, enzymes, B vitamins, and smaller soluble compounds the root zone can use fast. So what you end up with is not plant food in the normal sense. It acts more like a living root zone push. That is why seedlings often respond so noticeably after the first proper drench. Not because somebody poured magic on them, because the plant suddenly has a more active underground environment to work with. And the reason gardeners get excited about that is practical, not romantic. A stronger root system changes everything that comes after it. You transplant a tomato. It sits there sulking for days. You move peppers into warm ground, and they just hold still, almost offended. You put cucumbers in, and the top growth hesitates because the roots have not caught up yet. That stalled moment right there. That is where people start making expensive mistakes. They see no movement, so they buy stronger fertilizer. Then another product. Then a bloom booster too early. Then a transplant tonic. Then something for stress. Then something for roots. Before long, they are standing in the garden aisle with a basket full of bottles trying to solve one problem from 6 directions. Meanwhile, the real issue was never a shortage of products. The plant just needed better root establishment. And that is where fermented yeast water earns its place. Now the obvious question, If this works so well, why isn't every garden center pushing it in a shiny little bottle with a dramatic label and a root explosion graphic on the front? 2 reasons. First, Live Biology does not behave like dead shelf product. A bottle of mineral fertilizer can sit in heat, in transit in a warehouse, under store lights, month after month. It is stable, it is predictable, it is shelf-friendly. Live yeast is the opposite. The moment it gets moisture and sugar, it wakes up, starts feeding, starts releasing gas, starts changing. Seal that pressure inside a container, and you are not storing a calm garden product anymore. You are building pressure. That is why you do not cap this airtight. Seriously, do not. A fermenting jar needs room to breathe. Use a loose lid, a cloth, or a paper towel with a rubber band. Let gas escape. Otherwise, you are turning a simple root tonic into a kitchen grenade. Second reason, once you learn this recipe, a whole category of impulse purchases starts looking flimsy. Home Depot is currently listing Garden Safe Take Root, a 2-ounce rooting hormone powder, at $7.36, and Miracle Grow's Root Starter Gel 4-pack at $10.52. Those are not outrageous prices on their own. But once you see how little raw material it takes to make a live root zone stimulant at home, you stop feeling impressed by every small plastic package with root on the label. And the money is not just money. That $7, $10, $15 can go somewhere that actually expands your garden's capacity. A good layer of compost over the root zone. Mulch that keeps moisture from burning off by noon. A decent hose nozzle. Seed starting mix that behaves properly. Clips, twine, trays, pruning snips, drip fittings. Things that keep paying you back after one use. That is the part that big box gardening culture trains people to miss. Not because every product is fake, because it is easier to sell surface correction than root infrastructure. So let's make the recipe. And the small details matter here more than people think. You need 1 liter of lukewarm water, 2 tablespoons of dry baker's yeast, 1 tablespoon of sugar. That is it. Start with the water and get the temperature right. Lukewarm means close to body temperature. Dip a finger in. It should feel neutral. Not hot, not chilly, just easy. If it feels hot, back off. Hot water kills the yeast before it ever wakes up. Cold water leaves it sluggish and half asleep. And then people blame the recipe when the real problem was the setup from minute 1. Pour that water into a glass jar or jug. Add the yeast. Add the sugar. Then stir until it disappears into the liquid, and the sugar is not there for the plant. That part matters. Do not think of sugar as a plant boost here. The sugar is for the yeast. It is the wake-up call. It gives the organisms an immediate food source so they can activate, multiply, and start producing the compounds you actually want in the brew. No sugar, no proper fermentation. No proper fermentation, no useful root tonic. That part is not optional. Now cover the jar loosely, not sealed. Loose. A cloth works. A paper towel works. A loose-fitting lid works. What you want is protection without pressure. And while you are at it, keep the jar out of direct sun. Think of it like the vampire rule. Fermentation likes calm, darkness, and a little protection. A cabinet is perfect. A shaded corner works. Bright sunlight is the wrong environment for an active living culture you are trying to build on purpose. Then wait about 30 to 40 minutes. Not all afternoon. Not overnight. You're not trying to make wine. You're trying to wake the culture, get it active, and catch it while the brew is lively. What are you looking for? A beige foam cap beginning to form on top. Tiny bubbles rising through the liquid. A soft, yeasty smell that tells you the culture is alive and working. If the surface stays flat and silent, something went wrong. Usually temperature, sometimes dead yeast, sometimes people forgot the sugar and then act surprised when the jar just sits there looking bored. Once the bubbles and foam show up, the concentrate is ready. And now we hit the part that people mess up when they get greedy. You do not pour the concentrate straight onto the plant. Do not do that. You dilute it at a 1:10 ratio. 1 liter of concentrate goes into 10 liters of plain water. Rainwater is fine. Dechlorinated water is fine. Water that has been left standing works fine. Stir it through, and now you have a much larger volume of usable root drench that can actually be applied safely around the base of the plant. That dilution step is not a boring technicality. It is the difference between a smart biological push and a heavy-handed mess. Concentrated activity right against tender feeder roots is not the goal. You want the whole root zone moistened with a living diluted drench, not blasted with the jar straight. Apply it to the soil, not the leaves. We are feeding the underground half of the plant here. Soak the root zone thoroughly. Let the soil drink it in. Aim for saturation, not swamp. You want the liquid moving through the root area, not pooling there like a mistake. And timing matters just as much as the mixture. There are 3 windows when this hits hardest. First, transplanting. This is the highest value moment. The plant has just been disturbed. Roots were confined, bent, handled, exposed, moved. It needs to re-establish fast. Give it the drench then, and you help it switch from shock into expansion. Second, early flowering. That is when the plant starts deciding how much production it can truly support. Stronger roots at that stage help hold more flowers and reduce the kind of quiet dropping that steals yield before the fruit even starts. Third, early fruit set. Now demand is climbing hard. Water use rises. Nutrient demand rises. The plant is trying to build and fill at the same time. A healthier root system handles that load with more confidence. 3 applications across a season is enough. Do not turn this into a weekly habit. A good gardener knows the difference between strategic use and nervous overuse. This recipe works because it is timed, because it is purposeful, because it is used when the plant can convert that root push into real structural gain. You can use it on tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, eggplant, beans, strawberries, and flowering ornamentals that need stronger establishment. It is especially useful on seedlings, cuttings, and any plant that has been moved recently and needs to stop hesitating and start rooting. And the results show up in layers. Within a couple of days, a stressed plant often looks more settled. Leaves stop hanging there like damp laundry. The posture improves. Color starts to deepen. Then, over the next week, new growth comes in with more confidence. Stems start thickening instead of staying thin and uncertain, but the best part stays hidden for a while. Underground, the plant is building the part that actually carries the season. More branching, more lateral roots, more fine feeder roots reaching into the soil instead of sitting in one tight, weak little knot under the stem. That is the shift you are after. Because by the time fruit load ramps up, the difference starts showing in a way even impatient gardeners can feel. Tomatoes hold better. Peppers stop acting fragile. Cucumbers move with more momentum. And when the season is done, when you pull one of those plants and shake the soil loose, the whole story is sitting there in your hands. A real root ball. Dense, branched, heavy. The kind that tells you the plant had infrastructure, not just hope. And that is why homemade methods like this stick around for generations in the corners of gardening culture. Not because they sound mystical, because they solve a real bottleneck with almost insulting simplicity. Yeast, sugar, water, half an hour. 1 good dilution, 3 smart application windows. That is enough to change how a plant starts, how it recovers, and how much engine it builds before the hard work of summer begins. So the next time a garden center shelf tries to pull your eye toward another root bottle, pause for a second. Ask the better question. Do I need more product, or do I need a stronger system under the soil? Because once you start thinking like that, the whole garden changes. You stop chasing symptoms, you stop paying for surface reassurance, you build from the bottom, where the real leverage has been sitting the entire time. And that is where the harvest begins.